Okay, everybody, welcome to our last lesson for this week, Women Fight for Rights and Advancements. So our objectives and standards, to understand the struggle for suffrage by women, and to analyze movements and organizations by women during the period. Take a moment to read the standards, please. Our desired result: what movements and advancements did women fight for? Some vocabulary. We have temperance, which is a movement that wanted to ban the manufacturing, sale, and use of alcohol. Settlement movement were locations, set up to support struggling women. National Women's Suffrage Association, or the NWSA. This was an organization that wanted an amendment to the U.S. Constitution that would give women the right to vote. And the American Women's Suffrage Association, or AWSA, was an organization that wanted women to gain the right to vote state by state instead. So the fight for suffrage. So women began to fight for their own rights following the end of slavery, and the right to vote to women and to hold property was extended to women in a lot of western states, such as in Wyoming and Utah. It was actually granted to women in Wyoming in 1869, and Utah 1870-1871. So women began to push for voting rights across the United States, not just in individual states, but they wanted a broad, voting rights for everybody across the United States. And a huge impact in this were the 14th and 15th Amendments. The 14th Amendment granted equal rights for all citizens following the Civil War, and the 15th Amendment granted voting rights to all African American men. Now, not African American women, strictly African American men, but many women, including African American women, begin to wonder, is that fair that, we're allowing simply more men to vote, but women still don't have a right to vote either as white women or African American women or Mexican American women, whatever the case may be. So women and other activists began to push for equal rights and suffrage as a result of this, and two organizations are going to emerge that would help fight for the right to vote for women. So groups are going to begin working for voting rights. The National Women's Suffrage Association, or the NWSA, was founded by Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, and Sojourner Truth. Now, they had a larger membership, and they wanted more direct results for suffrage for women. Again, they wanted it to be granted to every woman in the United States in the U.S. Constitution as an amendment. Members also focused on other areas such as divorce laws. We've talked about how women, if they divorced their husbands, it was very expensive, they lost a lot of their rights, so they also talked about divorce laws as well. Now, another group that worked for suffrage was the American Women's Suffrage Association, or the AWSA. Now, this was founded by Henry Blackwell and his wife Lucy Stone, and they kind of wanted a slower attempt at this. They wanted women to gain the right to vote state by state, so having states vote individually on the right to vote for women. So this was a slower approach, and the group really didn't focus on any other issues. But it was a different opinion. Now, African American women also formed suffrage groups, such as the National Association of Colored Women, or the NACW, that wanted voting rights and equal work and equal child care. And also, something to mention here is there was a woman that actually ran for president in 1872. Her name was Victoria Woodhull. She wanted to improve the rights of women by running for president, a very brave step, especially in 1872, as a member of the Equal Rights Party. Unfortunately, she did not win, but she did try to take a stand to show that women can and should have the right to vote. So working together. During the 1880s, the divisions among different women's groups began to decrease, and we'll see many women work together, and they'll hold the 1888 International Congress of Women. Now, it did include many famous speakers, including Frederick Douglass. His picture is right down there. And it also urged younger women to work with older women activists for better rights. So saying that they should come together and put aside their differences to work together to gain voting rights or whatever else. In 1889, leading members of the NWSA and the AWSA signed the Open Letter to the Women of America document that stated both groups would work together for the benefit of women. Now, there was another group, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, the Women's Temperance Movement Union, also joined to help. And women are going to continue to work and push for equal rights by 1900. Unfortunately, again, they will not get the right to vote until closer to 1920 or so, but we'll take a look at that later on. So the movement against alcohol, there were other groups that included women that worked for progress and reform. One of these, following the U.S. Civil War, was the temperance movement. And this temperance movement was against banning and manufacturing, sale, and use of alcohol. And this begins to expand following the Civil War. Members of this movement saw alcohol as damaging to society, whether they had witnessed it firsthand with their husbands or fathers or brothers or whatever, or maybe they were just concerned about, this a lot of drinking and things like that that were going on in the country. So in 1873, the Women's Temperance Crusade formed. Now the group would enter saloons or bars and sing and pray, kind of like what you see in this picture here, to end the sale and use of alcohol. And the movement did spread to other states, and it was pretty successful at shutting down many saloons. You might think this is kind of crazy or might not work, but it actually did work at shutting down many saloons, and eventually the group will actually join suffrage groups in their fight for equal rights as well. So other movements. There was a member of the temperance movement who was Mary Baker Eddy, and she believed that religion did not match her views. So she established her own religion, which was known as Church of Christ Scientist. It was about, offering the religious part of God and also the humanitarian part of the caring views of God, if you're into religion or things like that. She was trying to combine both of those. It was very rare for a woman to establish her own religious movement, so this was very unique. Women also began to form other groups known as Women's Club Movement. And these groups wanted to expand equal rights, such as the right to vote and other social reforms. There were other groups and other different minority groups, such as African Americans and Native Americans, who worked to better themselves. And we'll also begin to see reform movements begin to pop up to help form and improve the conditions of cities. One of the ways that they tried to do this was through settlement groups. Settlement groups looked to help struggling women and provide services to them, such as education and health programs. Okay, so what movements and advancements did women fight for in this time period? Think about that. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns. And next week we'll start talking about our next time period. But I hope you have a great rest of your day or night, and we will hopefully talk to you all soon.